What's up, everybody? Jackson Galaxy, Cat Daddy here with you, and today we are talking about safety for your cats. But this time, it's about cat-proofing your home. And I am telling you, I promise you, I guarantee you that there's a bunch of stuff you didn't think of. And almost everything that I'm going to list here either has happened to clients or I've heard stories about. We start with the concept, as I've said before, that we have to treat cats in terms of our home design as we are designing for toddlers who can get to the ceiling, who can act like squirrel monkeys, sometimes flying with the greatest of ease and sometimes not. Toddler in terms of curiosity, toddler in terms of destructibility, and cat in terms of owning the sky and the ground. So with that, let's get to it. So before I go through this list, a few things. I want to mention the concept of catification. And catification, if you don't know it yet, there are many videos on this channel and also 2 design books that I've written. I'll talk about that later. That we're not just talking about a checklist of do's and don'ts, it's also about more of a holistic take on design. Before I launch into this list, and yes, folks, it's a list, I want you to start thinking about who your cats are and how these pointers will apply or not apply to your specific cats. So who is your cat? Well, kittens really represent just about every troublemaking category I can think of, except for the fact that depending on how young the kitten is, then they can only get so far in the sky. It's their job in life to discover territory, to better hunt, and that is something you just have to bear in mind as your kittens get older. Is your cat the explorer? The one that's just always finding new places? You're like, where's Henry? Are they the cat that I deem Dennis the Menace? And of course, that is a gender-neutral term. Is this the cat who knocks things off of shelves just to see them fall? Is your cat a senior? Seniors become much more compromised when it comes to not only their physical function and their sensory abilities and their cognitive abilities, they're gonna be more apt to slip and slide, to fall off of places where at some point they might have been totally confident about getting up and down from. So special needs cats, they don't see themselves through the lens of others. Oh, I'm a cat with only 3 legs. They don't do it. They just move through the world with 3 legs. Same thing goes for hearing impaired cat, a blind cat. We still have to design our homes from a cat proofing perspective to accommodate and to not invite disaster. Along the lines of special needs, if your cat has pica, and it's something that we know not very much about in terms of the causes, but it is incredibly dangerous because these are cats who will eat things that they have no business eating. Or at the end of the day, you could have multiple cats and they might fall into multiple categories, but it just gives you a starting point in terms of thinking about who you're cat proofing for. So having mentioned catification, let's start with catification, catproofication. Catproofication. Anyway, you get it's about the overall design of the house. There are just sort of general things, big, low-hanging design pieces of fruit for you guys to think about. One of them is child locks on cabinets. That's easy, and we're gonna go further into why you would do that, but do that. But what about things like your screens and your doors, your front doors, your back doors? If you think that every screen that you buy for your house is cat tested and cat approved, you would be totally wrong. Make sure, number one, that when you push on a screen, it can't come out. But the second thing is, what is your screening made of? Pet screening is a grade of screen that is just more heavy duty than, let's face it, the cheap stuff, which is basically there to keep out mosquitoes, not to keep in cats. Another thing that I've just seen happen way too many times is when it comes to balconies. I let my cat out on the balcony because, he can see the world and he's not leaving the house. But if you don't think that your cat is going to maybe at some point jump up or climb or do whatever because he's never done it before, don't. And depending on where you live, renting, HOAs, things like that, they may not allow you to screen in your balcony, but if you can, then do it. If you can't, don't let your cat out there. Why tempt fate? Any cord at all should be covered because, again, even if your cat's never done it before, there's always that chance they're gonna walk up to a cord and be like, Cord protectors, which you can buy online very simply. They're just hard plastic. They are bendable. You You run your cords through it. They are pretty much bite-proof, although I've seen some pica cats be able to do some damage, but in that case, you would spray it down with bitter apple, a little nasty tasting spray, and that way, even if they want to chew on the cord protector, there's not a lot of return on investment there, let's put it that way. Start thinking also about, if you've got a multi-level house, banisters and landings that are high. I've seen it over and over, right? We have it's a landing, and then you have a railing that goes on top and a long drop down. Just make sure you're thinking about how you're going to prevent your cat from doing a tight wire walk on a railing like that. Underneath those places, just think of a soft landing. Even if they land on their feet, if it's a slippery surface, whoop, they're just going to go straight out, and that will cause damage. I have actually worked with having either netting or canvas or something like this that hangs right below that rail. You know where your cat's going to fall. Think about it in terms of like a pole vaulter or what you would have on the sides of a trampoline, something like that. Look out for those banisters, look out for those landings, and also start thinking about stairs. And what happens if you just got those slick wood stairs? Cats will run, and then they'll run up and down the stairs. And the idea of them hitting those stairs and just losing balance and hurting themselves. Blind cords, if you got vertical blinds or curtains and they have those cords, make sure to tie them up. Don't let them just dangle. That's something that they can really get tangled up in, and it's a serious choking hazard. It's a serious something that they can wind up strangling themselves on, so hang those guys up. If you have a cat or cats, you shouldn't have lit candles from anywhere that they can access. A candle is either singed whiskers, singed fur, or knocking it over and starting a house fire. I love the fact that you guys have been catifying your butts off. I see great pictures. In fact, in our books, we just use so many examples that you have come up with over the years. The one thing that I would have you be really careful about when it comes to catifying up high, the shelving, is just be careful how high you go. In terms of an emergency, if you got to get your cats out of the house and you can't reach them, if you've got, 12-foot ceilings, you might not want your cats to have access to the 11th foot. All right, so we've talked about knowing your cat. We've talked about sort of whole house thoughts from a catification, cat-proofing standpoint. Now let's go room to room. So one of the most obvious places to start when we talk about cat proofing is the bathroom, because that's where our medicines are. Cat proofing the cabinet. What you might not have thought about is something like toothpaste. Toothpaste is completely toxic to your cats. Soap, it's another thing, totally toxic for the most part to cats. Anything with perfumes in them. Here's something you didn't think about. Are you using the kind of tissue paper or facial tissue that has things like lanolin in it or perfumes in them? And if it's gonna wind up in your cat's mouth, it could be a problem. Another thing you might not have thought about is keeping your toilet lid down. Cats can fall into the toilet, and once in, sometimes they'll have trouble getting out. And again, there are things in your toilet that are not meant to be digested, especially if you use any kind of deodorizer, any kind of additive to the toilet bowl. You want to make sure you keep the toilet lid closed for business. Open for business, but closed for cat business. Gross. One last thing that winds up in the bathroom, all different types of deodorizers and aromatherapy, those little sticks that we have in decorative jars just because it's a bathroom. Nuh-uh. Those are just a quick way to poison your cats. Tons of things in the kitchen that can harm your cats. So let's start with the most obvious, and that is the under sink area. That place where you have all of your cleaners, anything that's usually toxic goes in that place. Easily solved with child locks on the cabinet itself. Let's talk about the stove/oven. If you use your oven, just look. I know, you're going, well, how is my cat gonna get in the oven? Well, cats are just heat-seeking missiles. If they're that explorer, they might wind up in there. So just look. Let's go up top and talk about the stove. Very simple stove handle guards. They're little locks that can go on the 4 burners or 6 burners or how many you got, and it will keep them from being turned. You can get those little stove top covers. So as soon as you're done using it, plunk, and done, walk away. That way your cats aren't walking on something that could be uber hot. When we're talking about cat cat's looking for heat and interesting places to go, the dishwasher is another place. And just, again, check the dishwasher before you use it. The fridge, folks, the fridge. Why? There's food. Your cat will find food anywhere. They're gonna find it in the fridge, and that's not a place where you want your cat to wind up, right? And garbage cans. Food smells like food, whether it's been in your mouth, on your plate, some kind of gourmet preparation, your cat's still gonna wanna go there. Between toxic materials that can be in the trash interspersed with the food that you might have put in there, or bones that could be in your trash as well. These are things that can splinter, choking hazards. You know where I'm going, right? So make sure to secure your garbage cans. Let's just talk about the dining room also, because it's a room and we're talking about rooms and it's attached to the kitchen most of the time. So anyway, let's talk about our dining table. What's on our dining table? Oftentimes, besides food, flowers. So we have done a video, take a look right here. When you have time, go through this video right up here, because that is about plants and flowers that are toxic to your cats. There are plenty of flowers and plants that can kill your cats. Tablecloths. So when you think about kittens, Dennis the Menace, who wants to knock things off, those are guys who will look at something dangling off a table, and especially if they have the little fringes to them or anything like that, and yank. And whatever's on that table comes down with them and comes down on top of them. Living room. Let's go to the living room, shall we? Follow me to the living room. I really want to give you a house tour here of the most dangerous house in the world for your cats. Kittens and Dennis the Menace and explorers. All three of those guys are in danger in the living room to one degree or another. And let's just use the mantle as just sort of a symbol for all the higher up places where you could put decorative items. Those items are there to be knocked down. So the cure-all for that is museum putty. Living in California, everybody knows what museum putty is in California, because if there's an earthquake, that stuff's coming down. Museum putty just goes underneath any of these items that you want to keep where they are, and your cats won't be able to knock them down. But earthquake straps on your highest items, whether it's in the dining room, the living room, wherever, those break fronts, armoires, whatever, they're just straps that attach to the wall and make it so that if there is an earthquake or anything else, I mean, if you've got a 20-pound cat and he's just wanting to jump off of something, oftentimes something, well, not an armoire, but you know, an IKEA bookcase can come right down, you know, so. You get what you pay for, folks. But any of those lightweight objects can come down, and those earthquake straps are a really inexpensive, easy way to make sure that they don't. Recliners are a real problem when it comes to cats. If you have a cat who's an explorer or a kitten, tends to want to just explore those dark areas, those smaller areas, any furniture with moving parts to it can be really dangerous to your cats and kill them when you go to recline. You just want to make sure that there's no cat down there. Seal off the ways for your cats to get in there in the first place. And I know that's not easy. And I gotta be honest, if you're gonna have especially multiple cats, if you're gonna have kittens, think about it. Think about maybe not having that lazy boy. Another thing is to double check whether it's your couches or your living room chairs. A lot of them have either those gaps of fabric and wood, or it's just happened over time. Your cat can, number one, get inside your couch, get stuck there, wind up getting hung up on threads that are stray hanging from the top of the inside of that couch, or like I was talking about, not being able to get your cat down from a certain area. If your cat is in the couch or in a chair and you got to get out or you got to get them out, good luck. You're going to wind up tearing that furniture apart just to get them out of there. Heed my advice, people. Moving on to your bedroom. The first place that I worry about is under your bed. I hate when cats go under the bed. Here's what I worry about. There's an emergency in your house. There's a fire. There's any kind of an emergency where you got to get out of the house. If your cats get scared, where are they going to go? A lot of times under the bed. And that means they're going to go under the bed, in the middle of the bed, under the headboard. It's going to be a squeeze. You're going to wind up having to tear the bed apart just to get them out. And you may not have the time to do that. If you want to talk long-term cat proofing, platform beds are where it's at. Laundry room. Let's go to the laundry room. Follow me. This is like, you know, king obvious room, right? Because the washer and the dryer. Again, you're sitting there going, Jackson, my cat's not just gonna open the dryer and get in there. No, but you're gonna leave it open. And your cat, depending on the cat, in fact, let me tell you a quick story. This is funny. I had a cat, his name was Grolsch. And Grolsch was always a little slow on the uptake. Something happened to him. And so you always had to watch out for him. I was younger and dumber, so just don't. The front door, one of my roommates left the front door open and Grolsch wandered out. He wound up in the laundry room of an apartment complex with a lot of angry neighbors waiting for me because he had crapped in the dryer multiple times. That's where he just made a nest and pooped everywhere. You don't know how hard it is to get the smell of poop poop out of a dryer. You know, it heats up. Anyhow, washers and dryers, make sure that you're checking. Also, remember, it's not just about your cat going through the spin cycle or you know, the dryer starting up. It's also what's in there. Dryer sheets. It's also about fabric softener. It's also about the detergent itself. So wherever it is that you store those things and the fact that there's residue of them in these areas, just remember, the little things mean a lot. Or the little things can really mess up your cats. And what do I mean by the little things? Things that just wind up hanging around the house, especially if you have a home office. Things like rubber bands, thumbtacks, paper clips, staples. These are things that are just floating around. For those of you who have kids and you've been trying to kid-proof the house, kids have birthday parties. And that means balloons that get deflated. Balloons have strings on them. They have ribbons. Presents have ribbons. And Mylar is not a good thing for cats either. So make sure that you're cleaning up all of the sort of decorative items as well from the kids' birthday parties. Speaking of that, then we've got holidays. And I mean, if you haven't even considered all of the trouble that your cat can get into around the holidays, check out this video up here. Christmas trees and all the rest of it, man, can be a real problem. So I'm here to help you guys. I know you think I'm here to be a pain and to be that guy who's like, have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Have you thought of this? Well, have you? Anyway, I wanted to talk about crafting. Well, let's say you're sewing or doing needlepoint, so that means needles, pointy needles with needlepoint. Thread is another problem. Anything that can wrap around the cat's intestinal tract as it goes down is potentially a nightmare. At the very best, you're following your cat around for a couple of days waiting for them to poop something out, and that's no fun either. Just put everything away. I know if you're like me, you just leave stuff around. It's hard to break yourself of the habit, but you're gonna be really happy that you did. Yeah, so as I've been going through this whole thing, I'm like, I feel like that crotchety old, you know what, that thing can be a choking hazard. Well, it can. Now on that note, I want you guys to know something. I have spent the better part of 30 years gathering up information and gathering up products and designing products and writing books. And I do want you guys to take a look at what I have provided for you. One of those things, well, two, are Catification and Catify to Satisfy, my two design books. If you want to know about catifying, about creating a home that works for both you and your cat, and yes, about cat proofing and being safe, and check out those two books. Also, take a look at the Jackson Galaxy Stain and Odor Remover. Not only does that stuff work, but it's also completely safe. It's a wonderful product, else I wouldn't have put my name to it. And besides that, you guys, there's plenty of other products that I have spent a long time curating. So just go to jacksongalaxy.com, check them all out for yourself. And don't forget, pass this video on to anybody that you know that has cats, because everybody needs this kind of information. And if you have a video that you want to see, that's what the comments are for. So leave a comment about what you'd like me to answer about your cats. And don't forget, subscribe, hit the bell, make sure that the next time there's important information or funny information or funny but not information, you know when it happens. That's a great way of saying that, Jackson. Anyway, it's time for me to go. Until next time, you guys, all light, all love, all mojo to you.
Meow.